So I started playing World of Warcraft well into adulthood, at least compared to a lot of players. It seems like I got started kind of late. I've been playing first-person shooters for years. A boyfriend got me into playing Unreal Tournament. We used to have LAN parties. There was this club downtown that a friend of ours owned, and he had put in a coffee bar. And we would be up until like 3 o'clock in the morning drinking, pints of Guinness, shots of espresso, and just laughing our asses off. But anyway, so cut to years later, my sister and I are on opposite coasts. She and I are really close, and, she wanted a way for us to hang out. And she'd been playing World of Warcraft, and she wanted me to start. She thought, well, this will be a great way to kind of hang out together, sort of. We'll be in voice together, our characters will be in the game together, and it'll be sort of like being in the same place. But I really resisted. I was like, MMOs, stranger danger, other people, oh shit. But this was the year that Cataclysm launched, and for Christmas that year, she sent me a copy. Anyway, she bought it for me, so I thought, well, yeah, I've got to try it at least. I rolled a Night Elf Hunter, logged in, and I'm watching that intro that plays for, it plays for whatever race you choose, and the one for Night Elves, of course, is flying in over Teldrassil and into the starting zone. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, this is cool. This is really pretty. Fandral Staghelm? Wait, there's someone called Storm Rage? Okay, that sounds cool. And Tyrande Whisperwind? Okay. I'm curious now. So my sister helped me with the first intro quests, and then she started showing me around Teldrassil. I mean, she's got that two-person mount thing, and I'm just oohing and eyeing over everything. And it's one of her favorite zones too, right? So she really wanted me to see it and to love it. And so then she thought, well, let's go to Darnassus. So she took me to Darnassus. And man, you come up to those big gates and the music gets all stirring, and I was just really entranced, with the colors and the night elves. And I think the day we came into Darnassus, it started to rain just as we rode out onto that first bridge, the one where when you look over to the right, you'll see the houses kind of built into the trees, and they've got the warm lights glowing in the windows. And then you look over to the left and you see those beautiful stone domes, and God, the rain coming down onto the water, the sun showers that they get in Darnassus, and everything just looked so freaking magical. It looked like a place I wanted to stay, and I just fell in love. And over the years I've played on a bunch of servers, a couple of normal servers, 2 RP servers, an RP PvP server, and it was that one, the RP PvP server, where I rolled the character who's become my main ever since. Rolled a Night Elf Rogue and started role-playing. I mean, I think most people in MMO RPGs do have stories about the characters, and I thought, well, let me give it a try. So rolled on RP PvP, learned a lot about roleplay, a lot about how to not get corpse camped, how to get your guild come kill the hell out of them when they do. So time goes on, I'm in an outlaw guild and the Sentinels guild, and then a friend and I start our own guild, built a lot of great stories, always keeping it relevant to what's going on in the current expansion, right? Because, this is the world that our characters live in, right? Let's keep the stories relative to that world. So all along, there have been times when we were doing cross-faction RP or RP PvP, but then Legion launches and the Horde and the Alliance are working together against the Burning Legion, so we did a lot more cross-faction RP. Had some great adventures, made some really good friends, and we were really having an awesome time. And then news of BFA dropped that we were going to go back to the faction war, and we're all kind of nonplussed by this. We're like, why? We've just been allies and made friends and had our class halls together, but okay. So, our Horde side guild friends were making their plans, and we were making our plans for how we're going to handle the different scenarios depending on how this goes, because of course, we didn't know what was going to happen. And then we found out that the spark that ignites the war was going to be the burning of Teldrassil. And I'll be honest, my heart just sank. But I thought, well, okay, it's not that big of a deal. I'll still be able to go there, with Sidormi or whatever. And if they're starting the expansion by destroying the Night Elf starting zone and our capital city, well, that's gotta mean we'll be relevant to the story, right? And I mean, folks say Legion was a Night Elf expansion, but it really wasn't. It was Shal'dorei and Demon Hunters. And that's as much Blood Elf as it is Night Elf, right? Shared backstory between the two races. So, and I don't need for them to do a Night Elf expansion. It'd be neat, sure. But I didn't need it. It's just, when they start off burning down our home, I thought, well, it'd be great to have an expansion where we're going to be relevant again, where we can, really flex our fighting muscles, and show that the Sentinel army really is a force to be reckoned with. Grom Hellscream, the iconic warrior of the iconic warrior race, said of the Sentinels, "These women fight with unmatched savagery. I've never seen their equal. They are perfect warriors." And you really can't get a better endorsement than that. And I don't need Night Elves to be perfect warriors. And honestly, it'd be boring as hell to win at all the things. No one wants to win all the time. You want to be on your back foot, fighting back sometimes. But you also want to win sometimes. And it'd be nice to be relevant. And it seemed like we'd be relevant. So our guild made multiple possible storylines, and then we found out, you do those pre-expansion quests, trying to keep the Horde out of Darkshore. We did some great roleplay with that. Admittedly, it was short because pre-expat quests. And then there's that backstab from Saurfang, and Tyrnathera shows up, and she's like, between the quest and the Elegy Novella, she believes the Horde are going to occupy Teldrassil. So, you go try and make that as bearable as possible. And, she wasn't going to hand over herself and her faction co-leader to the enemy. Sylvanas would have just stuck their heads on pikes on the walls. So it would have been bad. There's no reason for her to do that. So off you go. You fly up to Teldrassil, and the whole place is burning. Darnassus is burning. You hear the flames, you hear the screams, and it's smoke and ash and fire everywhere. And they send you out to rescue civilians, and the game gives you a counter in it. It gives you a counter that counts down. It's not a long counter. It counts down how much time you have left and how many civilians there are left to save. And so really what it's showing you is how many you didn't save. And they wanted to get us invested. The story team, they wanted us to feel it. And this was a great narrative device to get that investment, to make us feel how badly the Night Elves were hurt. And it was a gut punch. It was hard. It was a punch to the chest every time I did it, on every alt. And I wouldn't have done it on every alt, except, I just kind of wanted to keep rescuing Night Elves. So our RP Guild had written stories for, well, what happens if the Horde did it? Back when we didn't know why the tree burned. And we'd written stories about, rescuing civilians, about getting survivors, off the tree and out of the water and, away from Darkshore, away from the fighting, and pushing back the Horde and fighting for our homelands. And all that went great for the about, 10 minutes before they sent us off to retake Lordaeron. Right, Lordaeron. The Horde is killing us in Darkshore, and they're going to send us off to Lordaeron. Which, okay, I guess we're going to bring Sylvanas to justice, right? Except we know we're not going to do that because there's no way that's going to happen at the start of the expansion. We're not going to catch her right off the bat. That's ludicrous. So, of course, off we go. We have the fight and we lose. Sylvanas is playing her 5D chess thing and yeets off to wherever as the building starts coming down, and Jaina saves our plucky faction leaders, and Sylvanas blights the city. And there is no way that this can be called a win for anyone, right? Well, for Sylvanas, maybe. The Alliance doesn't win, their city is blighted. The Forsaken don't win, their city is blighted. Forsaken role players sure don't win. They've lost their city now too, and I really empathize with that. I feel bad for them. So then they send us off to Kultiras, right, to get allies. And my RP guild is still trying to work with this. We weren't an all-Night Elf guild, but just because of the way that the guild had grown and the stories that we told together, all of our characters were really invested in getting justice for Teldrassil, getting the Horde out of Darkshore, but we were in it, trying to save Kultiran farmers against really horrific attacks by the Horde, slaughtering parents in front of their children, and I hear that it went really differently Horde side. I don't know, but we were trying to make it work, and then the Warfront opened up, and we could go back to the actual fight, the one that we really cared about for a while. But one Warfront won't keep an RP guild in stories forever. We had to do other things too. So we're role-playing in Borealis, which is a super great place for role-play. Really awesome. And we're, role-playing in Borealis, and we're role-playing in Darkshore, and we're waiting for that investment to pay off, right? The investment that they got from us with those intro quests when they had us failing to rescue people from being burned alive. We're waiting for Night Elves to be relevant to the expansion in some way that isn't just dying. you do that question, is it, I guess it's Zuldazar. It's the one where you're going to rescue drowning 7th Legion soldiers. And I did that like on 10 alts. And I looked, like on every alt I looked, and I felt guilty about it sometimes because, you know, it's like there are other drowning soldiers. I never found a single Night Elf soldier who wasn't already dead on 10 alts. I found some Night Elf Sentinels in Kultiris. That was exciting. I was like, oh, yay, there's got to be a Night Elf base around here somewhere. We're going to have Night Elf quests here. It's going to be relevant to the expansion. We're going to be relevant. And then it turns out, well, they're actually just quest mobs for Horde players to come and kill. And I gotta say too, I mean, there's a ton of criticism that can be leveled at Blizzard for really every race in the game, right? No race has gotten off without being shafted by Blizzard, sidelined or ignored or villain batted. But if every time we want to talk about how our chosen race in WoW is treated, we also have to talk about all the ways that the other races have it bad. You know, if we can't talk about one without talking about all of them, then none of us are ever going to have time to talk about any of them. So when I'm talking about my frustrations as a Night Elf role player, as a Night Elf player, I'm not saying we're the only ones. I'm not saying we have it worse than anyone else. Everyone's been shafted, and I empathize. I want every player in the game to feel good when they're playing, or at least not bad. But I main Night Elf, and it's the story team's decisions regarding the Night Elf story. Those are what's making me quit the game. So that's what I'm talking about. And like there have been so many opportunities, you know, all those beautiful Warbringer cinematics that just tear your heart out, you know, talking about why are these people going to war, but nothing for Tyrande, whose people were decimated to kick off the expansion. Nothing about why she wants to go to war, why the Night Elves would want to go to war, you know, and all those beautiful, heart-wrenching, you know, sad orc cinematics. I mean, they're beautiful cinematics. They're wonderfully done. They're very affecting. But Battle for Azeroth started the way that it did. It started with burning down Teldrassil, and ever since then, okay, what have we got for the Night Elves? We got the Terror of Darkshore cinematic, which is a great cinematic, although it did suffer for the lack of Tyrande. I mean, Crom Hellscream and the Perfect Warriors thing, and Tyrande just gets to stand there in the hero pose while her boyfriend and her owl do all the work. That was unfortunate. But it was a great cinematic, you know. We got some in-game CGI stuff when Tyrande invokes the Night Warrior, which is cool, except we still couldn't beat Nathanos or save Syrah, so that was not a fist pump moment that they said it was going to be. We got the in-game cinematic where Tyrande tells us, you know, we won Darkshore, but we haven't actually won the Warfront, right? Because the zone still flips between Alliance and Horde. You own the Darkshore Warfront one week, and the next week the Horde owns it again. So if they wanted the Darkshore Warfront to feel like a victory, to feel like our fist pump moment, they're just a really ineffective storytelling device. The real problem is that it just doesn't feel like any kind of meaningful win or any kind of healing. You know, if they gave us an uninstanced, rebuilt, not on fire, not blighted Aberdeen, Lordanelle, you know, an uninstanced Darkshore as Kaldari territory again, that would feel like a victory. That would feel like the start of healing. Keep the Warfront in its instance version, but give us the in-game area as ours. But they didn't, and I've heard nothing to suggest that they will, and popular wisdom is that Blizzard just doesn't make changes to zones that way. So then, instead of a victory, we're getting sent to the literal afterlife. And for my RP guild, that was just a bridge too far. We can't all be the Maw Walker. Or so most of my guild got their mains to max level in Shadowlands, and it just kind of checked out. You know, and a few of us tried to keep it going, come up with some kind of convoluted way to pull this off. We did some good stuff. But between the disappointments in the story and the grindiness of Shadowlands, and oh dear God, is it a grind. Wow, I mean, come on. Torghast every day, world quests every day. I have a job they pay me for. I don't have the time or the energy or the inclination at this point to log in every day and grind out anima just so I can fill the bar a tiny bit more on this great big thing, the anima that I gotta fill to try to advance the story. I just can't. So my guild has almost all stopped playing. I've stopped playing except for, you know, just a few times a month to make sure that the guild isn't randomly handed to some other inactive officer. And I've been keeping up by watching folks like Taliesin and Evital, watching cinematics. and waiting for that thing that says, no, really, this time, it's no more Charlie Brown and the football. This time it's the truth. This time you're going to get that moment where you're going to feel good again. You're going to get the payoff for the investment that you made at the start of the BFA. And so that brings us to the Ardenweald cinematic, which was really the breaking point for me. I thought it was going to be the point that brought me back to the game, and it's turned out quite the opposite. I mean, I knew Tyrande was not going to kill Sylvanas. She has to be alive. She's needed as a raid boss. I'm cool with that. But I was still excited. I thought, it's going to be epic confrontation, Tyrande's big moment. And there are so many ways that they could have done that cinematic that would have really showcased the strengths of both characters, would have done what they needed, keep Sylvanas alive without humiliating either character. They could have both come away from that with both the Forsaken and the Night Elves feeling like it was a win for them. And instead, they went the humiliation route. And it started off great. Tyrande's entrance, and she's got the power pose, and they're duking it out. And I thought, yes, this could be the thing. And then at the last minute, Tyrande is abandoned by the goddess, and Sylvanas is all sassy, and she eats off to where the fuck ever. And I had forgotten that the story lead is a diehard Sylvanas fanboy who I think is at best indifferent to the Night Elves. I know some folks think he hates them, but I feel like that's a stretch. Plus, of course, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So I think he just doesn't give a shit. And I'm sure there are people on the story team who do. But either their voices aren't being heard or I'm wrong or something, I don't know. And maybe he feels like so many players do, like Night Elf players who just full of themselves or too demanding or, we're never going to be happy unless we just win at all the things. But the reason Night Elf players sound so demanding right now is because Blizzard did a really amazing job of making us feel that hurt, of making us feel how devastated the Night Elves were at the start of BFA. BFA launched in August of 2018. It's now mid-July 2021. And the only relevant things that Night Elves have been doing in Battle for Azeroth or Shadowlands is dying. Even our wild god Ursoc, right? He's in the Shadowlands, waiting to be reborn. But no, his soul is sacrificed. He's obliterated to move one small part of the story one little bit further. There are things in World of Warcraft that have moved me to tears. I'm sure a lot of us feel the same way. Quests, cinematics, stories that have been so affecting. That's the point of telling a story, right? It's just a video game, sure, but it's a video game that's being told by storytellers who are in fact telling a story. And if a story doesn't affect you, then the story has failed. Well, the story has affected me, just not in the way I would have expected them to hope, right? Hope. You remember that stirring line at the start of BFA, Dalaran Summermoon turns to Sylvanas and says, "You can't kill hope." And I just kind of feel like the story team heard that with their Sylvanas fanboy lead and answered, "Can't we?" And I mean, this is where I am right now. This is where I am with the writers. This is where I am with the story team. And I hate that. I believe they're good people. I believe they're trying to tell a good story. But we've been hyped up and let down so many times that I no longer believe in their goodwill towards my part of the player base. My cat came to say hello. But Steve Denuser, who, seems like a good guy. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, so I apologize if I'm not. But, he tweeted about the Chains of Domination cinematic. He tweeted about the in-game CGI for Garage Hellscream. I went back through his Twitter feed and I didn't find anything at all about the epic confrontation between Sylvanas and Tyrande. Taryn Gregory recently was tweeting about he'd been at Blizzard 15 years and all these great things that he's been involved with, and I'm really glad for him that he's had this 15-year career at Blizzard and that he's found it to be such a rewarding experience. I'm genuinely glad for him, and he also seems like a great guy. They all seem like nice people. But in all the story beats that he tweeted about in this little string of tweets, there wasn't anything at all about Night Elves. Not Teldrassil, not Tyrande, not Darkshore, not Terror of Darkshore, nothing. So like in the 15 years that you've been here, maybe he's just never worked on anything to do with Night Elves. Maybe. You know, and Christy Golden tweets to somebody on her Twitter who's disappointed about the Ardenweald cinematic and that Tyrande didn't win. And, you know, even given that we knew that she couldn't because raid boss. And Christy says, you know, remember the story isn't over yet. There still may be another chance. I'm like, yeah, there may be another chance. There always may be another chance. This is what we've been getting the whole time. Oh, there'll be another chance. You know, it's just more of the same. For a couple of years now, like, you know, just shut up, stop complaining, the story isn't over. You know, shut up, stop complaining. You know, Night Elf players won't be happy unless you never lose anything. And I'll tell you, Night Elf players are not a hive mind, but I can say with confidence that most of us don't want to win at everything. It's not fun to win at everything, but we'd like to win at something other than dying for someone else's story. We want to be relevant to the story that opened with hundreds or even thousands, depending on who you listen to, lore team or pixels in the game, hundreds or thousands of Night Elves burned alive in their homes. They didn't have to kick it off that way, but they did. They didn't have to not give us any wins since then, but that's what they've done. They could have given us the stirring cinematics that they've given to Saurfang, that they've given to Thrall, that they've given to, you know, Sylvanas and to Jaina and to frickin' Ashara, but they didn't. And it turns out you can kill hope, which really sucks. I don't want to quit. I want my guild to come back. My guild wants to come back. You know, just today somebody was saying, yeah, I'm playing Final Fantasy. If Warcraft would bring me back, I'd come back in a hot second. If they would do something to make me want to play again, I'd come back in a hot second. So this is where we are. This is where we are. My sub runs out in December. I canceled it the day after I got the, oh, hey, thanks for, you know, resubbing for 6 months. Here's a beautiful mount. I can't send it back with a tersely worded note. But I can let my sub run out at the end of December. And I hope they give me a reason to come back.